You carry your phone around all day, but do you know what it's emitting? You heard the word radiation, but not all radiation is the same. We're keeping this evidence-based. Peer-reviewed studies you can find on Google Scholar and PubMed. You'll learn what Wi-Fi and cell signals actually are, what health effects are reported, and simple ways to lower exposure without ditching your tech. By the end of this, you'll know practical, science-aligned ways to reduce exposure while staying connected. So now, let's get to it. On the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation, there are two broad types: non-ionizing, like radio frequency, microwaves, infrared, and visible light, and ionizing, like X-rays and gamma rays. Ionizing radiation has enough energy to knock electrons off atoms and break chemical bonds, which can directly damage DNA. Non-ionizing radiation lacks that energy, so its main proven effect at higher power is heating, like a microwave warming food. Phones, Wi-Fi routers, Bluetooth, earbuds, and smartwatches all use non-ionizing radio frequencies, RF, to send data. At common consumer levels, power output is very low and typically doesn't cause measurable heating, often called non-thermal exposure. Researchers continue to study whether subtle biological effects can occur at these non-thermal levels, especially from pulsed or modulated signals. Your actual exposure depends on four main factors: distance, time, power, and the pulse pattern of the signal. Think of it like a flashing light. Even a dim bulb feels intense if it's right in your face for hours. Bluetooth earbuds use extremely low power but sit right next to the head, and proximity matters. Routers and Wi-Fi systems send data packages in pulses and generally have low power. Placement shapes background exposure in your home. Cell phones are different because their power changes based on how strong your service is. When the signal is weak, the phone works harder and transmits more strongly to keep the call or data going. The phone also sends information in short bursts that come and go, so the pattern isn't steady. And distance matters a lot. Having the phone against your head or in a pocket is a very different exposure than having it across the room. Other emitters include tablets, laptops, smart home devices, and baby monitors. Even though each might be low power, the total exposure in the environment can add up. The key idea: distance is your friend. RF intensely drops quickly with space. Following the inverse square rule, double the distance and intensity drops to roughly 1/4. Phone specs list specific absorption rate, SAR, which measures radiation under test conditions. SAR limits exist, but real-world use differs. We put phones in pockets and against skin. We use them in elevators and cars where the signal fluctuates. Low power doesn't always mean no biological interaction. It's the mix of distance, duration, and signal pattern that defines exposure. Now that we understand radiation emitted from tech, we can make sense of the reported health outcomes. Carrying or wearing transmitters all day means stacking small exposures you don't feel. That's why studies examine effects in animals, cells, and humans. Results differ, and that's normal in developing science. The central debate is thermal versus non-thermal effects. High power heats tissue, but some research looks for biological changes below that level. Sleep comes up often. Several human studies report changes in sleep quality or melatonin with RF exposure at home and workplaces, though findings are mixed. Proximity and timing matter. A router across the room is different from a phone under your pillow. Headaches, fatigue, and focus changes appear in some studies, while others find no effect. Differences often come from exposure patterns. Short pulse signals may produce different biological responses than steady ones. Reproductive health is another focus. Several studies show associations between phone and laptop proximity and reduced sperm quality, including mobility and DNA integrity. Phones near the groin increase near-field exposure, while moving them away lowers it sharply. Oxidative stress, an imbalance of reactive oxygen species, appears frequently in both animal and cell studies under RF exposure. This doesn't prove disease, but oxidative stress can disrupt the cardiovascular system, the immune system, and the reproductive system. In animal models, prenatal and early life exposures sometimes affect neural development or behavior, though human data remains limited. Tracking long-term exposure is difficult because tech evolves so quickly. Precaution during pregnancy and early childhood is reasonable since distance is an easy safeguard. Tumor risk draws the most public attention. Some large animal studies report increased tumor growth at specific exposure levels. Human studies suggest possible associations between heavy long-term phone use near the head and certain tumor types, leading to classification of RF as a possible carcinogen by international bodies. The consensus is location and dose pattern drive outcomes. Near-field exposure to the head or groin differs from background Wi-Fi levels across a room. Exposure can be compared to background noise, a quiet hum in a cafe versus a speaker beside your ear. To interpret the science correctly, don't treat correlation as proof. Associations raise questions, they don't confirm cause. Always note frequency band and signal modulation. Different setups can affect the scientific outcome. And check study size and blinding, as small or poorly blinded work can exaggerate results. Variations arise from different technologies, duration, environments, and individual factors such as stress or sleep. None of this removes risk, it just explains why studies vary. Scientists emphasize the need for standardized methods and long-term monitoring as 5G and new frequency bands expand use. The International Commission on Non-ionizing Radiation Protection continues to review data to ensure exposure limits remain protective. Now that you have a clear picture of the potential health effects, let me show you simple ways to cut exposure without giving up your tech. Overall, evidence supports prudent avoidance, especially keeping transmitters away from sleeping spaces, the head, and reproductive organs. Habits that increase distance, reduce duration, and avoid high-power situations remain the most practical safeguard because effects seem more visible with prolonged close exposure. Phone habits. Use speakerphone or a wired headset to keep the phone away from your head. Text instead of making long calls when possible. Keep phones out of pockets and bras. Store them on a table, in a bag, or a cup holder. If it must be nearby, keep its screen up and arm's length away. Enable airplane mode at night or during focus sessions. If you don't need connectivity, turn off cellular Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Avoid calls in low signal areas, like elevators or basements. Phones increase transmission power when service is weak. SAR ratings can help compare models, but real-world use matters more. A low SAR phone pressed to your ear can exceed the exposure of a higher SAR model on speaker mode. For home Wi-Fi, place routers away from bedrooms and areas where you spend a lot of time. Use timers or apps to disable Wi-Fi overnight. Wired connections for computers and TVs cut unnecessary wireless traffic. For mesh systems, avoid placing nodes near beds or cribs. With wearables, take breaks. Disconnect when not syncing data. Wireless earbuds should be used in short sessions. Alternate with speaker or wired options for long calls. Faraday bags and shields only work by completely blocking the phone's signal, making it offline. If you partially shield your phone, it can increase the power output. This is the opposite of what you want. For pregnant ladies, use phones for less than 30 minutes per day. Tablets for children can be used offline by downloading content in advance. Practical microhabits. Charge phones outside bedrooms, combined do not disturb with airplane mode at night, and avoid calls while walking through weak signal zones. Making small changes like increasing the distance and decreasing the time can effectively lower the overall dose. That's the move. These simple shifts put you back in control. Let's wrap with the key takeaways. We have shared the science behind radiation from phones, Wi-Fi, and other wireless devices, emphasizing that these use non-ionizing radio frequency energy, RF, which mainly causes heating at high levels. Research continues on whether low-level, non-thermal exposure can produce subtle biological effects. Reported health outcomes include potential impacts on sleep, headaches, sperm quality, oxidative stress, and tumor risk, though findings remain mixed. Experts recommend prudent avoidance, increasing distance, reducing use duration, and avoiding close contact during weak signal conditions. Set up one new habit today. Each small step adds up to a healthier digital routine backed by current research. Class dismissed. Check out our website for a schedule of upcoming videos and subscribe for more research-backed health tips.